There is a quiet tragedy unfolding every single day. Not in the headlines, not in the chaos of the world, but inside the minds of ordinary people who once believed they were meant for something more. It does not announce itself with noise. It does not arrive with warning. It happens slowly, invisibly, until one day a person wakes up and realizes they have settled for a life far smaller than the one they once imagined. Not because they lacked talent, not because they lacked opportunity, but because somewhere along the way, they stopped believing. This is why most people never succeed. It is not a lack of intelligence. History has never rewarded the smartest alone. It is not a lack of resources. Some of the greatest empires were built from nothing but vision and relentless will. It is not even a lack of time, because every single human being is given the same 24 hours. No, the real reason is far more subtle, far more dangerous. Most people never succeed because they never truly decide that they will. They drift, they hope, they wish, but they do not decide. And there is a difference, a profound, life-altering difference between wishing for a better life and deciding that nothing will stop you from creating it. When Thomas Edison failed thousands of times before creating the light bulb, people called it madness. But Edison did not see failure. He saw progress. He had made a decision that his outcome was inevitable. Every failed attempt was simply one step closer to the result he had already accepted as his future. When Henry Ford was told his ideas were impossible, when banks rejected him, when people laughed at the idea of a car for the common man, he did not retreat. He did not negotiate with doubt. He had already made the decision. The world had not caught up yet, but in his mind, it was already done. And this is where most people fall apart. They wait for evidence before they believe. But success has always demanded the opposite. You must believe before there is evidence. You must see before it exists. You must decide before the world agrees. Because the moment you truly decide, not casually, not emotionally, but with absolute certainty, you cross an invisible line. You move from being a spectator of life to becoming its architect. And once that line is crossed, something begins to shift inside you. Your thoughts sharpen, your focus intensifies, your tolerance for distraction disappears. You no longer ask, "Can I do this?" You begin asking, "How will I do this?" This is the beginning of transformation. But here is where the second barrier appears, the one that silently destroys even those who dare to dream. Belief. Not surface-level belief, not temporary motivation that fades when things become difficult, but deep, unshakable internal conviction. Most people operate with borrowed beliefs, ideas given to them by society, by family, by past failures. They carry invisible limits that were never truly theirs, limits whispered into their minds over years until they accepted them as truth. You're not good enough. People like you don't succeed. Be realistic. Play it safe. And so they shrink. Not at once, but piece by piece, dream by dream, until they become strangers to their own potential. But the individuals who rise above this, the ones who rewrite their destiny, they do something different. They question everything. They refuse to accept limitations without evidence. They rebuild their belief system from the ground up. Because belief is not something you find, it is something you construct. And once constructed with intention, it becomes one of the most powerful forces in existence. Andrew Carnegie once said that any idea that is held in the mind, emphasized, feared, or revered will begin to clothe itself in the most convenient and appropriate physical form available. In other words, what you believe, you begin to create. Not magically, not instantly, but inevitably. Your thoughts influence your actions. Your actions create your habits. Your habits shape your results, and your results reinforce your beliefs. It is a loop, a powerful self-sustaining cycle, and most people are trapped in a negative version of it. They doubt, so they hesitate. They hesitate, so they fail. They fail, so they believe they are incapable, and the cycle repeats. But the moment you interrupt that cycle, everything changes. The moment you choose belief over doubt, especially when it is hardest, you begin creating a new pattern. You act despite uncertainty. You persist despite discomfort. You grow despite resistance. And slowly, the results begin to follow. Not immediately, not easily, but undeniably. Because success is not an event, it is a process of becoming. Becoming someone who thinks differently. Becoming someone who acts decisively. Becoming someone who refuses to quit. This is why most people never succeed. They are not willing to become the person required. They want the rewards without the transformation. They want the results without the discipline. They want the outcome without the identity shift. But success does not work that way. It demands that you evolve, that you shed the old patterns, the old fears, the old excuses, and step into a version of yourself that most people are too afraid to even imagine. And this is where clarity enters the equation, not as a luxury, but as a necessity. Because without clarity, effort is scattered, energy is wasted, progress is inconsistent. Most people move through life reacting instead of directing. They chase opportunities without understanding their purpose. They work hard, but not with intention. And hard work without direction is one of the most exhausting ways to live. Clarity changes everything. When you know exactly what you want, not vaguely, not generally, but with precision, you activate a different level of focus. Your mind begins filtering information differently. Opportunities that once seemed invisible now stand out clearly. Decisions become easier. Distractions lose their power. Because you are no longer wandering, you are aiming. And when your aim is clear, your actions gain power. Your effort compounds. Your progress accelerates. This is not luck. This is alignment. The alignment between your thoughts, your beliefs, your actions, and your vision. And when alignment is achieved, something extraordinary happens. Momentum. A force so powerful that it begins to carry you forward even when motivation fades. But reaching that point requires something most people avoid at all costs: discipline.